What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Homie Hangout, where we help others move in excellence. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Homie Hangout, where we help others move in excellence. And by now, everybody's heard about this incident in King City, right? It happened earlier this month. Uh, a mass incident. 11 people were hit. Four lost their lives. It's tragic, right? It's made national news. The feds are in town. There's a lot, right? It's a lot. It's gotten a lot of press. I want to talk a little bit about that. It's been talked about before. I'm going to talk about it as well. But before I do, I want to rewind. I want to rewind about a month to February 4th. Uh, and, and let's talk about that. February 4th. I'm going to move from King City to neighboring Soledad. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Homie Hangout, where we help others move in excellence. And I'm going to talk about this King City incident. Right, a lot of people have heard about it. It's made national news. A mass event. Right, 11 people hit, four people passed away. Tragic situation. The feds are in town and all this other stuff. I'm going to talk about that. But before I do, I want to talk about something about a month earlier. I want to rewind a little bit and move next door to Soledad, right? So Soledad and Greenfield are two little farming communities. King City, they're all right there next to each other in the south end of Monterey County. Soledad and Greenfield are long known as northerner areas, right? King City is long known as a south sider area. I know those two areas beef. Long history of bloodshed, bodies on both sides, tit for tat, the whole nine yards. And so, but keep that in mind, right? Soledad, Greenfield, Northerners, King City, Southsiders. So let's move from King City to Soledad real quick. And on February 4th, right around 6 o'clock in the evening, Andres Chavita Garcia, age 20, and Con- Jack Conchola, 20, from Soledad, right? We're at a family gathering, family church gathering, celebrating the fifth Epiphany, or Catholic holiday. And Jack, he's a high functioning autistic guy, right? And so he was getting a little overwhelmed with kind of the noise and the crowd, and wanted to take a break. So he asked his cousin Chavita, "Hey, let's go for a ride," and so they get in a car and they take a cruise down to the Salinas River, little rural area, right? And it's just a spot for them to go kind of take a break. It was one of Jack's favorite spots to just sort of go and get away from it, you know. Now Chavita, he had a college degree, right? He was young, he was 26. He had a college degree in agriculture and was getting ready to kind of launch his behind the desk career, right? And Jack was going to school to be a diesel mechanic. Both of them had jobs. Both of them were very involved with their church. You hear a lot of people talk about, "Oh, those fools are altar boy." Like, these dudes literally were, right? They really were. Uh, so over there by the Salinas River, they're kind of hanging out. It's now maybe 6:30, quarter to seven, and some guys walk up on them, right? The guys were strapped. And we don't know exactly what's said, but guaranteed it's something along the lines of like, "Hey, where you fools from?" Or calling them some derogatory name or whatever. And really, no youngsters, especially, right? But really, nobody, no Raza in that area is unfamiliar with gangs, right? Most people have a relative or loved one or know somebody who is influenced on one side or the other, right? Who is affiliated on one side or the other. And that's true for Javita and Jack. But these weren't young men who ever played a role. They had never been involved in gangs. They had never been on the block. They didn't dress like it. They didn't act like it. They You could tell that these guys, while they're young brown men, they ain't got nothing to do with that culture and that world. Their interest was in the church and working and their family. But so they get hit up. And these aren't tough guys, right? They kind of back away. They're like, "Hey, whatever was said." They distance themselves and they get into their car and they take off, right? And they're going down La Concha Road. And all of a sudden they're getting followed, right? By a 2013 like silver or gray Kia. And so one of them in the car, right, either Jack or Chavita calls 911 and says, "Hey, these guys with guns, they're following us in this Kia." And so cops are going to respond, but before the police get there, they go to make a turn, and it's dark. It's a rural road. They don't catch it. They wind up sliding off the road into a vineyard. And and I'm guessing the guys, they probably sat in their car for a minute praying. They're men of faith, and there's got to be terrifying situations like what. It's late. It's dark. Now you're in the middle of the field. You got to dudes with guns chasing you. Like, um, maybe they got out to kind of plead with the folks that were pursuing them. But nonetheless, uh, the police find both men laying next to the car, and they're gone. Right, both of them hit multiple times. Police described it as being execution style. The Kia, which turns out to be stolen, was also left there. And so there's a reward put out. I think it was like a $10,000 reward from an anonymous source. The police come out and say, "Hey, you know what? We think that these were gang members, and it was a case of mistaken identity, right? That the people who did it are gang members, and it was a case of mistaken identity." Um, again, these communities have different sides, and but nobody's arrested, right? Weeks go on, and there's nobody arrested, there's nobody punished. That story really doesn't make the news. It makes the news locally around Salinas, but it's definitely not a national news story. It's a couple brown guys gunned down in a field, and as tragic as it is for the family, it very few people hear about it, and that's one of the reasons I'm talking about it. Now let's fast forward to King City. Right, it's barely a month later, March 3rd, around 6 p.m. There's a birthday celebration at a house on North Second. Right, tons of people there, a lot of people out front, and as you would expect with a birthday party, right, they're having a good time. And another Kia pulls up. This time a 2017 Kia, right, silver or gray. Three people hop out, all black, masked up, and they let off on the crowd at this birthday celebration in the front of the house. That's the case we've all heard about. Right, 11 people get hit. Three guys are found gone at the scene. There was one woman. Turns out she's the birthday girl who was transported to the hospital where she didn't make it. And then of the remaining seven victims at the hospital, two of them had critical conditions. Now, what do we know about them? Right? With a birthday girl who lost her life, she's definitely no stranger to gangs. She grew up with that stuff. Again, this is King City, so she grew up with this stuff. Her brother's a Southsider, right? Back and forth to prison, well-known guy. He was there. He got hit. He survived, but he got hit. Um, one of the guys whose life was lost. Same thing. Was known some years back. There's some conversation. Maybe he was out of the lifestyle now, right? Brother wasn't. Maybe he's out of the lifestyle now. But not too long ago, he was hanging out at little corner stores and liquor stores by the high school. As a grown man, running up on kids that he thought would be Northerners, right? Um, the woman who died, the girl who died, her husband is affiliated or was affiliated at least, right? So a lot of that people in that space have a history of being affiliated. Now there was one man who seems had zero connection to any of that lifestyle whatsoever, who also lost his life. You know, now I'm not saying folks deserved on either end, right? Those kids at the river, Chavita and Jack definitely didn't deserve to lose their life in a vineyard simply because they were getting some fresh air. Um, and I wouldn't say that these people at the party deserve to lose their life because they're having a party, but I think there's a lesson here, right? And one is the media is gonna adopt the story that fits their narrative. They don't actually care, right? I remember a case I've talked about a little bit before, but a case out of a city that I lived in, and and in that city there was a tragedy, right? A little bang bang happened, and and a child, infant, lost his life. Now, when it hit the news, it was a very big news story, right? Feds came to town, everything else, kind of similar, right? Uh, and then on news, you see the parents of the child who who lost their life, and they're at the hospital and they're sitting there, and they're using an interpreter, and the mom, I think, got hit shielding her son or something. And they said, man, we have no idea why this would happen. Like, we were leaving a family celebration, driving down the street. It was late at night. All of a sudden, these gang members just lit up the car. What happened to know those gang members, quote unquote? Right? One of them was actually affiliated, the other one wasn't. But I know them. I know them really well. Um, the one that wasn't affiliated in particular was right by his house. And the story that was presented, right, of these savage northerners just hit up this car for no reason was not at all the truth. The truth was that car was leaving a family celebration at like 2 o'clock in the morning, um, in what would be considered rival territory. But hey, family's family, right? And they left driving down the street, and the guys I know are walking down the street. And the father of that child, who's a well-known rival to those guys, right? Well-known affiliate, um, makes a U-turn and starts speeding towards the two teenagers walking down the street, and then swerves like he's going to run them off the curb. Right in that community, the curbs aren't sharp; they're like driveway kind of curbs. Swerves like he's going to run them off the curb, and one of them, the affiliated guy, was strapped. And it's late at night. There's hardly any street lights, and he lights the car up as the car rushes towards him and past him. And tragically, the baby lost his life. Right. I'd say a lot of that responsibility weighs on the father, but of course, that's not the story that's told because that doesn't fit the right narrative. Right. The better narrative is the one the media told. My guy wound up doing 8 years in a county jail fighting that case, being called horrible names, before finally he was able to come home. Right. The true story didn't get near as much noise as the first story. And again, I want to stress that I'm not saying that these folks deserve what they got, but what I'm saying is two things. One, when you're involved in the lifestyle, right? Your choices don't just affect you; they affect your family as well. There's nothing to suggest that these individuals by the river, right, Javita and Jack, were targeted specifically because of who their family was, more that they were just targeted because they were brown men in a community that was dominated by Northerners on a gang level. Um, but it's safe to assume that they would have family that's Northerners, and that's true. But when you make these choices, you're also making choices that affect your family. And when we get to the point to where it's anybody can get it, well, then it's anybody can get it, and that pendulum swings both ways. And I would say nobody wins in that, right? No, there's no winners in it. Um, if I feel like you don't care about my family, and if I feel like you're targeting my family, then why should I care about you and your family? And two wrongs don't make a right. Don't get me wrong. That was kind of evil. Two wrongs don't make a right. Don't get me wrong. But two, seriously though, two wrongs don't make a right. It's the nature of the environment, and it shouldn't be. Um, Losing a loved one is traumatic. I don't care if you're affiliated or not. Losing a loved one is traumatic. Losing loved ones that aren't involved in a lifestyle when you're involved in a lifestyle, whether you're directly responsible or not, is rough and it's traumatic. And there should be a level of guilt there. You should feel bad, um, that potentially your actions got other people hurt. But not just feel bad and then I want to go lash out at the other side because again it creates this tit for tat where nobody wins. We can keep shooting at each other forever, right? And what's going to end up is everybody's gone. That's not a win. That's not a W for the community. That's not a W for our families. No matter who your family is, no matter what side of the fence you're on, or anything else. This is a universal truth, right? If you're in a family and you have loved ones that are in the mix, maybe get at them, right? Maybe do what you can to create some healthy boundaries. I love you, but no, I can't have you at my party hanging out front because you're hot. You know what I mean? And I'm cool. I don't want that kind of heat at my house. and that's hard because we love our families, right? Um, but I would say to the affiliated people, if you love your families, in that same way, then perhaps that should influence your decision making. You know, the love has to go both ways, right? The priorities have to go both ways. Your family's prioritizing you by keeping you involved in family events, but are you going to prioritize them by not putting them in danger? Uh, Anyways, it's a touchy subject. I know a lot of us have been impacted on one side or the other, and there's going to be those who have a tendency to want to look at this through one lens or the other. It's a loss, man. It's a loss all the way around. Again, I'm not sitting here saying that these people deserved it and those people didn't, or it's. I don't want to see anybody get hurt. I don't want to see anybody get blasted. I don't give a shit who you are, who your family is. I want to see you live and add to your community and live into the potential that you were born with, right? Rather than fall victim to the circumstances around you. But you don't have a victim. You have a choice. We all have choices, and choices have consequences. So choose wisely. All right, you guys, help others move in excellence. That's what homies do. Help yourself at the same time because you're worth it, and help your community because they need you. Until next time.